So anybody opposed to the agenda? Patrick?
I'd like to change one thing. Can we switch undergraduate council with SAAAC?
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Move to amend undergraduate council to say SAAAC.
Well,
Second. Somebody help me out.
okay, yeah, I don't know, I think
Yeah,
it's
that'll be
that.
Sarah. Brandon?
Move to remove undergraduate after contact.
Okay.
We don't have that.
Second.
Did you have to say that?
Oh,
We took vote?
Can we do like
general consent, you have to say that.
Oh, general consent.
I generally.
Yeah.
I consent.
Okay.
All right, great.
Consent.
Anything else, Guy?
I was unable to do the landscape and stewardship back and go explore it.
That's fine.
It's fine. Alright.
Yeah.
I think because I logged you out. Oh.
And then remove undergraduate academic conduct.
Can you add one more A on that? SAAC. Thank you.
Yep. Great.
Landscape.
It looks silly.
He's still.
Hey, Brandon.
There's three sides. Yeah, there's.
All right, so anybody opposed to the agenda as it stands? All right. General consent?
Yeah.
General consent.
All right, great. So next is the minutes. Thank you. All right, so hope everybody got some time to read over the minutes. Is there anybody who'd like to make any amendments to the minutes? And thank you, Robbie, for your minutes. Really appreciate it.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second. All right, general consent? Great. All right, so you can have something to this. Next is your branded presentation.
Okay.
So all you. So
Thank you. All right, so I'm now going to lock you back out.
Yep. Thank you for being patient.
Oh, sweet.
For your presentation, how much time do you need?
Half an hour is great, or actually 20 minutes, I think that's what.
We got 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes is fine. Well, 20 minutes depending on how long it takes me to get back in here, so.
Okay, well, I'll do 20 minutes from when you start.
No, it's fine. I can do that. So let's see, currently. Here we go.
Derek.
See, I have to log all the way out and I'll be back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. That's okay. Yeah. Because I just don't want it in front of the screen.
Yeah, just like. Can you get rid of
No. Okay. All right. Try going into PowerPoint.
it? Okay, good idea. Okay.
I did not see that.
I'll do it. Okay. Oh, you know what, you can hand these out. Well, wait.
Okay. That's good. Is there one document or two?
One, just one.
Just take one of those.
Okay. So thank you for your patience. I can't multitask, otherwise I would have talked. It's just not what I do. So thanks very much for having me. I've been doing these presentations around campus, and I'm really glad to have a chance to talk to the SGA. As you'll see in a minute, there was a lot of student input into the new branding, and we're really excited to sort of share it back out to you and to get your feedback. And one of the things that we're doing in the course of these presentations is both sharing information and telling people about how we got here and what it looks like and what is this branding anyway, but also hearing from you about ways that we can help you to use the material. And when I say we, I represent, I should tell you, I'm Miriam Tillman, and I'm working in institutional advancement, and that's basically marketing and a lot of outward-facing stuff. But we also, in my group, have creative services, which is very, very similar to Common Vision. It's sort of the external version of Common Vision. And we work really closely with Laura and Emma and Katie in Common Vision. So we're really happy to work with you on materials or have you work with them. So that's, when I say we, that's what I'm talking about. So usually when I do this presentation, I ask if anybody was here in 1995. I wasn't even here in 1995, so I don't expect anybody here to have been. But basically, that's when we came up with the Honors University of Maryland. It was a long time ago, and it was a very different place. It was a campus that wasn't at all well known. It was basically, I mean, even less well known than it is now, I should say. And there was even more confusion, if you can imagine, than there is now about the name and who we were, and were we just a branch of College Park, and that whole thing. And so we really thought it was time to say, okay, this is who we are, and this is how we're different, and this is what we stand for. And it was really interesting because at the time, we were not an honors university. It was very much aspirational, and it was one of these cases where we thought, well, we could become, we have all the component parts, we have all the pieces, we could become this, and we could stand out in this way. And it was really funny because, again, I wasn't here, but I've heard this story many times, that and it was a fairly small group that came up with this idea. And so then they announced it to the campus, and the campus said, what? This is not what I'm seeing. And one of the faculty members, Diane Lee, who has since retired, wrote this long, I used to say it's an email, but it was actually a letter, because we weren't using a lot of email, that said, these are all the reasons we're not an honors university. But that was then used as sort of the foundation for developing IHUs and first-year experience and LLCs and a lot of group learning and experiential learning and all the things that have gone into what makes this an honors university. So we really sort of lived into that concept. And that is how the external world perceives us. Our SAT score, average SAT scores went way up. A lot of alums now say, I could never get in now. And it's really a very different kind of place than it was before. First person I showed this presentation to was Dr. Rabowski, and I made the mistake of saying on that second bullet something about, and we have accomplished this. And he said, no, we have not accomplished this for everybody, just for some people, and success is never final, and so I changed it. But it's an interesting point because it means that we're still working. On the other hand, it is who we are. So, how did we get to what we've got to, what I'm about to present to you? Unlike when we did the Honors University, we did a lot of, we learned our lesson, first of all, and we did a lot of cross-campus work. There were a couple of things, and we've been working on this for about 2 years now, almost 2 years. We had a lot of one-on-one conversations. We had some students, Alex Glaze and I can't remember the other student's name, who were on one of our cross-campus teams. We did surveys of both current undergraduate and graduate students. This would have been about 1.5 years ago. And then we also did a couple of surveys last fall for the logo design. And Laura wanted to make sure I mentioned this, and it's true, that the highest response we got was from students in both of them. We got more than 5,000 responses in each survey. And in both of those cases, students were the majority. And we really appreciate that. And we appreciate that sense of engagement and wanting to make sure that people are connected to who we are. So one of the things to say about branding is that, and I don't know if you can see this, but this is the logo. And 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 this is everybody, we have a brand whether we like it or not, and whether we control it or not. It's like any other kind of company or organization. People have their opinion, and it's sort of what you know and what you feel about a particular company or organization. But branding is is a way of sort of gathering all of that, making sure that you're being authentic and that it's coming from the ground up, and then saying, this is who we are, and getting everybody sort of on board. So as we talk about ourselves, we're talking about ourselves with essentially one voice, with many perspectives, but essentially as if the university were a person, and the person has a lot of attributes and a lot of characteristics and acts in lots of different ways, but it's someone you can define and you can sort of look at and say, that's UMBC, and that's College Park, and that's Towson. You know, we're all different, but we have distinctive characteristics. And so one of the things we talked a lot about, God, you know, that's all supposed to be gold. I love these projectors. look at your sheet, don't look at that. In any case, one of the things we spent a lot of time on in the beginning was trying to figure out, you know, how do we want to deal with this honors university question? Do we want a tagline? Do we not want a tagline? Is it an honors university? Is it something else? And one of the things we've been hearing over the years was honors university worked great for the undergrad audience, but it was really a problem for the growing graduate audience and the growing research enterprise. And so it really wasn't addressing the whole university in the way that it had in the beginning. And also, for those of you who are in graphics or do any work on digital, that Honors University of Maryland is just a nightmare to work with. It was developed in '95 before anybody was using this kind of stuff for digital work for marketing, and it was designed by a very good designer, but he always does everything tiny. And it just, you know, after a certain point, it was really tricky. So we decided, let's let go of the tagline. Let's have different themes that we can talk about, and that's what these are. These reach together, claim your future, explore every angle, and extend beyond. And sometimes I ask people, although in the interest of time, I'm not going to today, to sort of think about and share with us how those may or may not connect to your experience. And we actually are going to have an event, which I'll talk about in a minute, on April 11th, where we're going to bring this to more students so we can talk a little bit about it then. So I apologize, but I'm just going to, unless somebody has something burning to say. Okay. One of the important things about a brand is nobody is unique, but there may be things that differentiate us one from the other. And this is just a series of word clouds that show you, we had scraped all of the digital comments that we had put up about UMBC. So our websites, our social media, and so forth. And that word community only came up under UMBC. It did not come up under College Park or Hopkins, not in the same size. And we felt that that really, yeah, oh, good. Okay. And that really reinforced everything we've been talking about. So this is our vision statement. This actually was not something that the branding group came up with. It was developed over a long period of time when we did a strategic plan, I guess about 3 years ago now, but it took 3 years. So, but I wanted to mention it just because it really was a foundation for the work that we did. And we pulled out a number of words: inclusive culture, inquisitive minds, welcoming, and we evolved it into what's called the value proposition, which doesn't really matter, but it's essentially what you can expect when you come to UMBC. It's what is it that defines us, what I was talking about earlier. And so the phrase we came up with was welcome, so welcoming to our community of inquiring minds. And that inquiring can be interpreted as academics, but it could also be inquiring. You come here, you're at an age where you're looking at yourself, you're looking at others, you're trying to understand the world. I mean, it's a very broad definition and can really be used in a number of ways. So we thought that captured that sense of what this is about here, and that it's a place where we support each other, as opposed to some of the other places which may be competitive, but they really put one another down. The culture is very different than it is here, where it's much more welcoming and community-based. So now I'm going to direct you to your pieces of paper. And actually, actually what I'm going to, well, I'll talk real quick. So this is the family, sort of the graphic identity system, starting with that logo that I said was very popular. This is something you shouldn't use. This is the seal, which is really only for commencement, for diplomas and things like that, and high-end items in the bookstore, which I just learned last week. After I told them they shouldn't be using it, and by golly, there it was in the style guide. So, some social media icons, some samples of t-shirts, and actually the bookstore has ordered a bunch of stuff that's going to be going up, I think, on Wednesday. And this is the one thing, if you don't remember anything else that I talked about, is that URL, which is actually on your paper also. And I'm actually, again, in the interest of time, not going to go into it too deeply, but I'll tell you what's in there. It is all the material about the brand itself, the language, how we talk about ourselves, the themes I was referring to, a lot of the material that's on your sheet. And then it's also things that will help you in, for example, in language. So under the text guide, you can find how do you refer to an alum. What's our style, essentially, what's our writing style. So for those of you who do this kind of work, there's a AP style guide, there's a Chicago Manual of Style. I'm sure some of you in your academic areas have your own little set of things that are big style systems. This is what the university follows. So, and we don't, it's not complete, but it's everything that we think. So it also talks about how do you refer to UMBC itself? How do you refer to departments? Do you use doctor in a faculty member's name? No. So things like that, will again help to bring some consistency. It also has a lot of downloads. So you can download the various logos. It has guidelines for logo development, and this is one thing I did want to talk to you all about. Maybe I will go to it because it's important. Well, so what? I'll do that last, because I did want to talk to you about student groups. But just real quickly, and this is my last slide, just to let you know that I'm doing these various presentations through February through April. This coming Wednesday, pardon me, we have a faculty staff awards event where we're going to be launching a new video, which will then go on social. You'll be able to see it, and you'll be able to download it, in fact, and use it. We're also going to have a refreshed homepage that I'm happy to say has a lot more focus on campus life and students than our current page does. There's going to be a student kickoff event a week from Thursday on the 11th. It'll be down on Main Street. We're going to have, actually it's going to be really fun because we're going to have people respond to those themes I was telling you about, but we're going to have a big word cloud that will be dynamic and change. And you go on your phone and you type stuff in, and then it's really neat. And we'll also have a pixelated booth. We'll have some videos. We'll have some giveaways. The bookstore is going to give away coupons. So come 11 to 1 at Market Street, Main Street, excuse me. We're also doing advertising out in the marketplace, and we're going to be putting up, I don't know if you've noticed, there's a couple of things that are starting to go up around campus. But next week we'll have a whole lot of new stuff up, some banners, and we'll really start to look colorful. And then we're just going to keep working on this, because the truth is, the logo's everywhere. It's going to take a while to sort of work it in and to start figuring out how we can work some of this into the materials that already exist. But my big message to you is, even though there are downloads and there's material and you have access and resources, what we are not trying to encourage is what typically has a very do-it-yourself campus. And there's a lot of good about that. But it's also hard to maintain visual consistency if people are taking pieces of things and doing stuff with them. And we would much rather work with you, or have Laura, have Common Vision work with you to help you pull together your materials. Now, having said that, I'm going to contradict myself slightly, because we had a lot of conversation about student organization logos. Oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. And I wanted to point out to you where you can find, here it is, so under graphics guide, if you go to student club and org guidelines, and I'm going to start with a caveat, which is this is still a work in progress, and we're finding as we go that there are examples where we want to make some changes. But basically right now, the thinking is that we want the name UMBC to be included, we call it locational sense, that people know where this organization is. So it's mock trial, UMBC mock trial, and these are not real. These are just inventions as examples. Korean Student Association of UMBC, these are not real. UMBC sailing. And what we'd like to do is to not to use things as an endorsement, but basically to say this is a UMBC club, and that basically you can develop a logo as long as it follows the couple of guidelines that we have here. This is much looser, I should say, than what we're saying to faculty and staff offices, where we're basically trying to shut down new logos altogether. So, but we felt that wasn't appropriate for student clubs and orgs. So I know I'm sounding a little vague about it, and as I say, this is a little bit of a work in progress, but I did just want you to know that this is here for reference. We've also got T-shirts and guidelines for those, is the UMBC name used correctly and so forth. And then the graphics themselves are here. There's an official paw print. Yeah, I'm done. Okay, that's it. That's all I have to say. So thank you. Any questions? Any thoughts? You can always email me. I'm at mir@UMBC with any questions, and I really appreciate your time. Yeah.
Is it all right? I'm not a senator or anything. Okay, I do make a
Yeah, you can ask a question.
Cool.
Absolutely.
So I actually just heard something about this today from a friend who was a bit concerned about how heavily the what's it called, Crossland banner is featured in this file.
You mean the red and white? Yeah.
Because of its Confederate history.
Yeah.
Was that taken into consideration?
It certainly was.
Okay.
This is actually very interesting and not a good thing. The Maryland state flag, which is what it's drawn
Right,
from,
yeah.
has two sections. There's a Calvert gold and black, and then Crossland, that was called red and white. The red and white was actually a symbol of the Confederacy, and that's what people wore during the Civil War. Maryland was essentially a southern state for all intents and purposes. And so one of the things that we did find out with regard to this was that the black and gold should always be the prominent and upper left, and it should never switch places. So we've been very clear about that. But we did decide to include it as part of the flag, but to make sure that it was placed appropriately. All right. Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'll watch it.
Thank you. Good question.
Oh, no, that's actually all right, so that was the last meeting. All right, guys. So up next, communications updates. So, Kai, you want to kick us off with landscape and stewardship?
Sure. So I was unable to go to the meeting for that class, but I got notes from the chair. So if you have any questions, I can send her an email. So first off, I don't remember last time, if you remember, but I asked about signage and like what kind of signs and where you should put them for the wildlife habitat certification. So basically it says the signs have been purchased and the final locations are the backside of the library pond, the pollinator garden up at Hilltop, and then the pollinator gardens at the footbridge between UW Tech. Oh, I'm not entirely sure where that is. So it doesn't really say what kind of signs are, but I would imagine it would be the cheapest ones because they purchased multiple. And it says here the backs of the signs are pink.
Pink.
Also, back in my last update, I talked about about a workshop for certification about invasive plants, how to get rid of them with environment friendly. So it got pushed back to the fall so that way they can plan more and be able to promote it more. Hopefully it's still going to be like a 1 credit course. You can get 1 credit from that and a certification, but if not, then probably most likely the certification test. It'll be state certified. UMBC just got the Keep Maryland Beautiful grant. So it's a $1,000 grant to plant native shrubs and flowery understory trees between the Commons Garage and the Town Hall Loop. And the CERA website, the CERA, that's the Conservation Environmental Research Area. The website is going to be updated, and they just hired a student to help with that process, and the committee will meet in later April to see the next steps for it. That's it.
Any questions? All right, great. Patrick?
Yeah, so I was in attendance of the SA Academic Advisory Committee meeting, which is held in admin. And to preface this, it's actually, I'm going to mention this to the brand, but I'll definitely want to mention the body as well. This is definitely something we should be present at. They were really, really receptive to having a student there. They hadn't had one there in a while, because I know we have so many other SGCs that we need to attend. So this is definitely one we should make every effort to attend if we have people. Now this is sort of about like the back end of like my UBC and PeopleSoft and how all that kind of interacts. And they really love kind of having a student's point of view on different stuff. So a couple updates from them. First, if everyone saw like they're calling out the audit donut has been like updated. So if you saw, there was like for a while, especially this semester, like they hadn't really updated yet. They had like a few bugs with how that was like supposed to be self-updating. They patched those, so that should be updating much more frequently now. So that's very exciting. So if you drop a class or basically now, it should be reflected in that, which is awesome. They also want to encourage people to try to like plan their courses. There's like the new features that allow you to plan courses like that. It helps give you like a really broad outlook on on your 4-year plan, or how like for the non-traditional, sort of like allow them even better experience on like how to kind of manage going in with some credits, how to manage it in the rest of those credits. So it's actually really helpful for both traditional and non-traditional students, which is awesome. They're also, let's see, they also were really encouraging people to use, it's like a, how do you describe it? It's like a registration guide. And a lot of people, especially the upperclassmen, so even sophomores and up, weren't using it because it's like, oh, like we've already registered, like we know how to. But what it actually does, it kind of takes you step by step through an audit of like the course you've taken, your major, minor, and all this stuff. And it kind of gives you a visual, not just of the courses you want to take, but sort of what you need to take, and it kind of walks you through some shortcuts to be able to get courses you need. So definitely, you guys help spread the word with that. Also, like they're asking for communications, get the word out on that as well. That's something they want to encourage students to like be aware of. That it's not just how I register for classes. It's like this is not like a broad outlook on everything. And then last thing, they're looking at a different way to do to basically assign advisors and how like that all kind of works. I don't have anything specific for that right now, but that was something that was brought up by the IT guys over there. They really want to focus on trying to even out like how advisors are assigned, especially when you switch majors, because they noted that was a problem that like when you switch majors, there's no basically uniform way that each department has a new advisor assigned. It's very, very departmentally specific. So if I were to transfer out of political science and become like bio, they might have a completely different process, than like chemistry or something like that. So they're trying to look at how to automate that and kind of even that out among the departments so that everyone is kind of on the same footing. Which I definitely think is really important too. To kind of wrap that up, definitely if anyone wants to attend this with me, please feel free because it's really cool kind of stepping into that space and they keep asking like, what do you think the students want from your experience? What have you seen? They actually, it was kind of scary. They have access to all of our information that they can do like through a proxy. So like they pulled up my entire degree audit on the screen for like 10 administrators to see. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, not really. So yeah, definitely let me know if you're interested in that. They are. The next one I think is in the week, and I'll check that on my calendar. We can do that offline. But they're noon to 1 on Wednesdays. Admin 6 to 11. I don't know the date of the next week or the week after.
Okay.
But yeah.
What was the committee thing?
So it's SA, and they told me what the SA stands for. I completely blank. So it's SA, academic and project.
It should be student administrative.
Student
Actually,
Perfect. Thank you.
administration.
Yeah, we have so many SACs and SACs.
Question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Where can we give them feedback on all that kind of registration stuff?
Really?
So, like, I'm thinking specifically about when, like, the schedule builder has bugs. Do you just, like, do it, or you reach out to them, or?
It's do it. Do it, and because the people in the room are all from do it, IT, and technical photos, so they get that directly to them, and they actively like. The problem right now is that there's a vacancy in that office, so that's why it took them a long time to kind of get that like the donuts you able to update, because they were sort of like in a holding pattern with just keeping up with like all the requests for like other stuff rather than like the bigger projects. I think they either just got it filled or they're about to have the position filled though. So it's like they're about to start like a lot more projects. But Do It is the place to contact, and they're kind of working hard on getting everything done. So yeah.
Cool. All right, next initiative updates. So guys, we have a lot of senators here, so try to keep it about 1 minute or less. Right, so that's just what you did, what you got planned for next week, or if you don't or if you don't for either of those, and for new people. If you have an initiative that you know that you want to work on, let me know. And we're planning for that. If not, then we're going to meet up this week and figure that out. Okay. All right. So starting staff team.
So I basically contacted Tess from Communications to work out the details about advertising about the Retriever Essentials and around campus, and they want to put the word out about their different programs. So I emailed Lauren to schedule a meeting again with her because she's interested in the program too. So I'll provide updates to them at the meeting. That's what I've got so far.
I met with South Team, which was the Retriever Country, and as you said, we should be including the variety.
Okay, so you work with staff team.
And also, I met with Kelechi to discuss the program that she's doing as well. So we met with them and doing something with it. So no problem if you're working on that.
Okay, are you working with both of them? Mm-hmm. Okay, sure.
Okay.
So today, I met with Aaron at the Mosaic Center, and I was there with Shauna and Isabella. So we pretty much created a rough draft for how we want to go, and we have a potential time, date, location, and place for it. We just have to like get everything in the works. And also I'm gonna forward her. I was planning on forwarding the emails of like the people that I reached out to that haven't contacted me back. Like, because there were certain people that I wanted to be on the panel, so I reached out to them and I didn't hear anything back. So I'm gonna forward the email to her, so she's gonna follow up on it. And also, I plan to meet with Colin to talk about my initiative Thursday at 4 p.m. And that was it.
Cool. Great.
Sean and I met with, let's say, Chrissy from Western Athletics. Maybe, so we talked about athletics, doing pretty good. Yeah, I don't know what else. Meeting with transfer student representatives tomorrow, and then I want to get started, start a conversation with them.
Cool. Gosh.
So we had a meeting with stakeholders, the RAC and transportation, and a couple of FYs. And basically, we recap other stakeholders that should be with our initiative, like OCSF, and commuters, GSA, and maybe faculty, and that's what I'm going to do this. Contact them. But I'm going to ask that first, I had a meeting.
Make sure you get in the meeting, like get a time for the meeting. Yes, me?
It's a dub now. I'm just still waiting to hear back for the okay to go ahead on the that we agree on the time.
Okay. So once you get that okay, what's the next step after that, you know?
It depends on how the meeting goes.
Okay.
I'll email you the update. Like,
Alright.
okay, so.
Great.
Okay, so I met with Postman, Homeboy, and Mary on Friday, and basically finished planning the event. So we want to host it April 19th at 3 p.m. And we talked to Brenda about reserving a space, like in the big game room or sports
April
stuff.
19th?
Yeah.
So pretty soon.
Yeah, but that's what I need to talk about, how do I allocate funds for the event.
Is that for the schedule one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm meeting with Brittany on Thursday to talk about phrasing of the event for communications and phrasing of the conversations that we had during the event. Longboy and Postway, I'm meeting with Dan Barnhart on Wednesday. And then for the independent, I guess, initiative I'm working on, I reached out to Scott on the finance board for his document. They said everyone should be done. FYAs are still looking at it. You guys are looking at growth consistency, areas of growth. Brenda is also looking at her document with my method, but I need to make one more addition. And I think that's it.
That was a lot. All right, Patrick.
All right, so I'm meeting along with the rest of the SAC committee with Bruce Perry on Wednesday. And we're definitely going to discuss the event that we talked about the past year. Hopefully get it on the calendar at that meeting. And if not, I'll come back with more. Can I please call? I want to call it that. I think it's funny. Call them the cops. It's like a good catch. You get it. But that's something, he's definitely speaking with the community about that. He's definitely been on board so far with changes. And I actually learned this weekend, I don't think this is great information, but the police in their budget request have requested money for a full-time community outreach person. Hopefully that will be a student. That's something I'm going to mention him as well, because I think it's important that there is a student in that position as opposed to like somebody who's not a student but community outreach. So I'm just trying to ask about that and see where that's going. I think that is still contingent on that budget being approved. I'm not sure if it has been or not yet. So hopefully more information will come after the meeting Wednesday. I'll be able to update you guys on that. But those are just two things I think that I'm excited to see some progress within the regulation. So I'll be sure to keep you guys improved.
Sure.
On that full-time position, are they going to be a full-time student and also a full-time employee? Or would it be like rest?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I just know that it was. Oh, that's a good question.
All right, you guys talk about that.
Yeah. Oh my.
Okay, of like the Choose Initiative, looking up with her and working with that.
Alright, cool. Alright guys, so for next week, I created a little document I'd like you all to fill out. It's just an initiative plan for the month, okay? And it's just for each week, it has 3 things to accomplish, okay? 2 people to talk to, and your biggest challenge and how to overcome it. And this is just a little plan to help you guys just plan out your weeks in advance, so that way I have a reference of things that you guys see in the future, and you guys also have a timeline to follow that you can be held accountable to. Because the things are getting really close to the end of the semester, and I want to make sure that we have a good timeline in place for make sure we're getting things done in time. Okay. So, and this is mostly just a guideline. You don't necessarily have to have everything filled in, but it should be, you should really try to fill in everything. Okay? Does that make sense? So, it would be really nice if I could get these back by or next week, and so I can look at them, I'll make photocopies of them, and then I'll get them back out to you guys as well, so you can use them as a reference. Okay? But, yeah, so bring it back for our next meeting, and these are just initiative plans. If you're working with somebody else on an initiative, try to make it individualized to each person and what responsibilities you're going to be doing for that week, okay? So. Thank you, sir.
Maybe you guys can bust what I said. Oh, right.
Sorry. And, so that's like your homework. All right. So does anybody have any communication items that they'd like to present? What communication goes?
Okay, I want to be at the event, but I also don't know how to phrase it yet, so
Okay.
I want to do that next week.
If there are any student groups that feel like they are represented, to reach out.
Okay, so, well, I haven't talked to you, okay, personally, so, okay. So, after the meeting, I'm gonna send you a list of things that you can post on my email, okay? Alright. Alright, yeah, you're good to go now. Okay. Thank you. Alright, so now into legislation. Okay, so
Actually, off the bat, I'm really going to table this. I'm starting conversations with this student board. So, just because I'm wishing to table it, it's basically trying to, I'm going to go about it. I don't want to see it. I just want to preface it with, like, last question there were issues with the student with the mama voice, if you're familiar, where, like, there was sort of a lot of great feelings between them and us with, like, the finance board ran out of money. They needed money for a concert, and they were like kind of negotiating with the Senate, trying to get funding for their event, and it like kind of broke down, which is all fine and great. You know, what's done is done. Moving forward, though, I was looking because we're in a similar position this year with finance board running the money. I was going to propose that we fund them at a very limited rate of what they would need, which is because say, you know, like, we recognize in the past there have been some stuff that's been going on trying to fix that relationship. But I'm still kind of discussing with them sort of what it would look like to have, like, because if it's our money we're giving them, it should be sort of like a SGA sponsored event, and that's sort of like the hang up last year was on, as well as precedent. So I'm still discussing with them kind of what that looks like, what that means. So I'm going to propose to table this until I have a more like concrete discussion with them on like making sure like we all have an understanding of like what that looks like, right? What a sort of a partnership in that way looks like. To make sure that everyone's happy before we start like moving legislation forward that like they're not happy with or that we're not going to be happy with. To try to avoid this division there and last year. So that's my thought behind that. And hopefully that has some more support. Yes, so sorry, motion to table this until, motion to table SL 43-1819, allocation of set funds for all meals event until next week.
Okay. Is anybody opposed?
I appreciate you guys.
All right. Next, so this will become.
Nope.
Does it become SL 40?
It is what it is.
All right, so allocation of Senate allocations land as the finance board. This was also by Patrick, so Patrick, you want to preface this one?
Absolutely. So, round two. So at this other weekend, this is after a few lengthy discussions, including what we had in here. My thought with this was we discussed a lot, we kind of had some ideas, we put it around and stuff like that. My idea with this was like, let's get some legislation out there. If it's uploaded, downloaded, that's a different situation. So we can kind of upload or download that based on how we're feeling on the discussions. But I just wanted to put that out there that, okay, we have $2,500. I'm going to move $2,000 of that to finance board for them to allocate to the queue they have in place. I recommend that either we upload or download it. I'm for it, obviously, but like I'm not upset if we download it as well. I just want to have a discussion based on legislation so we can do something rather than just kind of discuss it. So.
What is this mean? Like, set allocations, this is
We have a Senate line item that has $2,100. In the past, it has not been spent. We have the other $7,000 for initiatives in general.
okay, I thought this was the same.
I think this can be used for initiatives, but it never has. We also have, I think, still $7,000. How much is still in the initiative budget? Do you know?
About 6,000.
$6,000. So my thought was like, that makes 8,000 total. Sorry, couldn't be right. That we were not going to spend $8,000 by the end of this month or by the end of this year, excuse me. And that we should give this money to finance board now so they can fund events that are going to be happening soon, rather than wait till the end of the year and be like, hey, let's put this money into something that may not be as important as like on-campus events. So that's my thought process. And if there are any discussion points, I'd love to have a discussion. If not, I will motion.
So, for instance, for your event that you want to do, where were you thinking of taking funds from?
The initiative fund. I didn't know there's, I thought that it was like our specified initiative fund, but I don't remember that we split with. What is that?
Do you have an estimate of how much that would be?
It's definitely under $300.
Okay.
That's what I'm estimating.
And would she be able to pull money out of your line item for that initiative?
Yeah, it's for all of SGA. Yeah, it's not just a.
Yeah, I was trying to clarify that now.
And this would go straight to the finance board, and they would just distribute it as they have it here, correct?
As they invest. I think I had as they invest. Like how they decide to do it.
Then I've been getting a lot of peer flashback in like how organizations are all of a sudden feeling, I guess, hurt. I guess that's not a good word to describe it, but like today, one of my friends is an organization, she's complaining about it, so I thought, like, I just let you know, right, listening to the student body and stuff, so I think this is something that many people.
Yeah, I mean, I agree also. I agree. I think like the reason for doing this is same deal as like I know that there are at least 4 student organizations that are like, and I say this like non-discriminatorily, but like the bigger ones that are having like the $1,000 events that they're putting on. That if they could we can get a little bit of this, it would help, because I know right now, for example, HSU is trying to fund, trying to fund an event that takes about, I think, like $4,000.
$3,000, this is just passing up on this.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, and they're fundraising that with bake sales and prominence and stuff like that. They're trying to raise that much money. So if this could even go a little bit of the way, and also leading to HLSU, but other groups are going to have to really, literally finance thousands of dollars for events. This could go a little bit of the way. I think the student probably would be grateful for even a little bit of help here. So that's just my thought process there.
Also, some other groups have had to cancel events, well, from what I've heard. Like, speaking to some of the people who are in other groups, they had to cancel events because, like, for instance, like, talking to the president of the Senate, she said that I think BSC had to cancel one of their events because ASA had, like, gotten the last bit of whatever finance board had or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago had 1.2 now. I think that if we look at this as our duty to support the undergraduate student body in any way we can, then doing this so that we can, we have this money, like this is like Polish money. This money is ours to do with what we please. Finance board has a process for distributing it. I think that if we're going to be upholding our commitment to the student body, I think it's important that we give us some bit of that to that, you know? But yeah, seriously.
My only setback with that is, like, I don't mind, like, helping the students in any way, shape, or form. I think the way in which we do it is why I'm kind of questioning it, because nobody's ever guaranteed they were going to get money for their organization. So they should have been operating as if they had nothing from the beginning. So I think learning from this lesson, communicating that better to student learners is better. And that's where I'm kind of conflicted where I do want to give money to like help the people who are cute and whatever they can help. But I think we also need to have a conversation with finance board or go to the meeting or whatever to get that back, changing the language of the fact that it is your student fee, but no one has ever promised that you're going to get money, i.e. certain people who want $30,000. That's no shade.
If I could just add just real quick 2 points. First, yeah, like I 100% feel it. On that point, we're all this weekend, and like I definitely respect that because like really, the finance board doesn't change. But Brenda and Zane feel like people spend the weekend like writing up reforms to finance board, and that's what they instead of allocating money these past few meetings, finance board to the meeting to instead shape. Like I sat through the meetings, and they were line by line went through the Constitution and the bylaws and saying like this changes. Tearing out the old ways and saying like we need to find a way for better this. So that I think is the best thing that has come out of this like circumstance. Like they realize that money is not permanent, that it needs to be allocated better. Second point though is like at the same time, like I feel like if we withhold money from them simply because like they need to do it better, even though they are doing it better, that just seems kind of petty to me. But I respect the reason a lot. Like I do get it because yeah, like they kind of screwed up, and now as Senate we don't have anything to do with that. Like we take heat for that too, and that's fine because like that's what we signed up for senators and stuff like that. But it's like I get that though.
I just don't want us to go our own initiatives to help the students because of the situation. And though it has been in the past not been used, we are not them. The expectations that we have for ourselves is not equivalent to theirs. So I don't want us to have to get the short end of the stick because we decided to help them clean up their mistake and the precedent that they set with the students.
So basically what you're saying is like, in understanding that if this were to be given, that you need to convey to students now, and specifically after they have their student board elections, that money is not guaranteed. So just like emphasize that there's a conditional agreement to like guarantee money and like factoring that in for next year.
Yeah, like I want to give a yes because I want the boards to get money, but I want the S to have a condition in the fact for the finance board to actually, now that Patrick said it, look at themselves and really understand, like, understanding the gravitas of the situation and understanding that though they may not be in those seats in the future, the precedent has been set that everybody feels entitled to that money, that nobody ever said that they should ever have that entitlement or comfortability to. So I think we need to change the language of how people operate in the school, specifically student orgs, and how they're going to get money, because the amount of backlash that we get when the fact is that you were never promised it is the problem, and that if we just fuel it just by throwing money at it, we're not changing that ideology, which needs change.
Yeah, like I said, I never respect that. I just think like what I said, like I think they have us in discussion. And I think that, like I said, like, sort of whether we get praised for it or not, whether we should do the right thing regardless. And just be willing to take that heat, because I think, like you were saying, like I think there's sort of been like an expectation of that money. That's why I'm excited to see what finance board proposes to change like their bylaws and stuff. But I think that like that's a conversation for towards the end of the semester. Because right now, like I said, there are student boards who are taking this burden on themselves, who are out in every way in a cold wind for 4 hours, selling like anything they can freaking put their hands on. And I think that's not right, because like we've got the money, we can give them the money now with an understanding that like things are changing. And I encourage you to like come to finance board and see it, because it looks good. I hope it is, but I like to understand that like we give them the money because like we want to make sure that the students don't have to put a burden on themselves to do stuff that they want to do for the student body, you know?
Is there a motion to set up a conversation?
We just have like
Second. All right.
I think where I'm coming from, go ahead.
If we allocate $2,000 to finance board, do you foresee us not being able to provide for our own events in the future?
Yeah.
Which events?
I mean, just when Francis, Patrick's, Coletti's.
I think Francis needs $300 there, right?
Yeah, I'm not expecting a lot of it.
No, it's different. Cake and coffee.
Cake and coffee, I wasn't making it.
Oh.
I was expecting
$300, but I mean, I was kind of curious. I don't know if I would try it out. $1,000 for pizza. I'll say that's pasta. Yes. Okay, sorry, my bad.
Patrick?
In like full like transparency, we're gonna with the initiative fund of $6,000, it would cover those senatorial like issue asks.
Including the charging station.
To the charging station.
It really depends on how much they are. Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't think like numbers. Yeah. And I know that's like not helpful, but.
For the group one that all the groups share, is it like whoever asks first? Is that how it goes?
All right, so in that case, why don't we table this, because it's a maybe, figure out our finances, because there's no rush. Or is there a motion?
No. I need to move to the group, and then, so yeah, I guess, move to the group SL 44-18, allocations, so allocations from that to the finance board.
Is there a second? All right, there's no second. So what was that?
Can we table it?
Not dead.
It's dead, on the floor.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can bring it back though, right?
Okay, well,
Or make a new one?
With new legislation.
Yeah. I feel like I set up a few hours on
Alright, so
I think it'd be a good conversation about
well, that includes
finances where expecting to have in the future, like how much the charging station. Right.
So they're just
We
making
get
it,
numbers for that.
this is a point of like not to sell at the next week. Okay, I think that's it, because we can add it.
next legislation. SL 45-819. Amendment to the Senate crop rules. So this is a kind of subtle change, and essentially to increase transparency in the Senate, while also maintaining the ability of people to, I guess, when voting to be secret. So it's two changes. So first is attachment A, which is it changes assistant speaker and speaker elections to a hands-up vote instead of a secret ballot. And then there's a second one which says that the Senate moves into a secret ballot at the request of any senator, so you don't need a majority for a secret ballot to pass. So what that means is that if anybody wants to go into a secret ballot, we will. So it increases people's ability to be secretive in their vote, right? But by default, there aren't any elections which are by default secret ballots.
Can you spell that one?
Sure.
Yeah, after sitting through a speaker election, like a contested speaker election, I think that it should be the other way. I think that it should be by default secret, and that if a senator feels comfortable, then to make it like you can motion for a hands up vote. But I feel like too often we kind of follow the default, and we like for me, I just went to the Brock rules, which is my fault. But like for the new senators as well, it's like there are people who like don't know that exists if they don't read line by line. And I think that after that speaker election, I would not have felt comfortable in the speaker election that we've had to have done that not secretly. And so I feel that if we're going to do this, we should amend it so that it's flipped, so that the default is secret. If they want, it can be a hands-up vote. And that's just my opinion on that, but I feel strong.
Well, currently it is flipped.
Oh, so you're saying leave it as it is?
Well, currently it's not flipped in the sense that you could vote for a hands-up vote, but it's just a secret ballot. It's just like the current wording is the speaker and assistant speaker shall be elected by plurality on the secret ballot. So.
Wait, so with this it says with the hands up vote or secret ballot?
We're honest. Right. So the
That's
changed
good.
language is the highlighted and italicized.
So it's no default for speaker?
What?
There's no default for speaker then?
What?
Like it's an or?
Well, the default was, there was no or before.
Right, so I'm saying there isn't like we default to hands up.
Oh,
and then-
it's or on a secret ballot at the request of any senator.
Oh, so, okay,
you
so
have to
it's
request for it.
defaulted to hands, and you have to request for it to be secret. You can't just choose and,
No, it would be at the time of the vote. So like, say you're doing this is my understanding, say you're doing an election for speaker, and then there could be a someone, okay, I want secret ballot, it's secret ballot. One
but they
person
would be
says,
notified before, right?
what do you mean?
Like, before they even went to vote, it'd be like, you can do secret ballot.
Oh, you would go over these proc rules?
Yeah.
They should, yes.
Okay, alright.
Whoever's chairing the election, let's say that, I do.
Okay.
What's the purpose of change?
It was something to increase the transparency of Senate, so, and also simplify all elections, but it's not, nothing other than that, yeah.
I think it also better parallels like other senates in forms of government. So it's more just like how governments usually work. I also have a comment on Patrick's point about like not knowing that it's we can do, I think with the dual contingencies of both the VP who traditionally chairs the speaker and assistant for the speaker election and Candace as our advisor who's like here now during the conversation.
I definitely respect that, but I'm just thinking like much longer term. I think because like, yes, we have candidates who's excellent now, yes, we have brain who's excellent now, but I'm always thinking of like, okay, that's not how it was in the dark ages, as we call it, and that's not how it could be in the future.
We call it the dark
Yeah, long stories. But that's why I think that I just because of like again like the stories that we've heard from the past, like, I don't fully trust that every single time it would be made explicitly clear. And I think that if you, for instance, if it's not a collaborative body like it is now, and there are people who clash a little bit more, having a non-secret ballot, I feel like, especially for speaker elections, just something you have to work with very closely. It leads to bad blood, to and stuff like that. It shouldn't. It definitely shouldn't. And it wouldn't in this environment that we have today. But I worry that in the future, like in the past, it could. And I do legitimately worry about that. But I definitely respect the transparency move because like I definitely want more transparency in the Senate. But I just think that shifting the onus away from like, well, hopefully they would read the protocols. Most likely somebody would motion for secret ballot, but like there's no guarantee that they would know. There's no guarantee. Like, you know what I mean? It shifts sort of like the who's responsible for something. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with Patrick. I definitely think so. I just want to clarify, are we switching from having a secret ballot as default as of right now to having hands up vote as default?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like it should, like Jared, Patrick said, I feel like it should be that we have a secret ballot as default. That's why. For many of the same reasons that Patrick. Okay.
I think that if we do a secret ballot, that we should also amend the method to like flip it to the other one. So as it stands, it's if any senator wants a secret ballot, it will be a secret ballot. I think if you flip it, it should be if there's a unanimous vote for a public vote. So
I agree with that.
instead of just one for all or something.
Okay.
Unanimous.
Not majority.
Not majority. Because right now it's one senator can make it a secret ballot. So by that same token, we should do like one senator can keep it a secret ballot if they decide not to vote for a public
Right, I got you.
Do you still want to keep attachment B? That just changes it from a majority vote to
Oh, I see how they
to
vote.
a single senator.
Okay.
That's the request.
I think maintaining attachment B is fine.
Okay.
Doesn't it's more than just the elections.
Can we amend that today at the vote?
Yeah.
Is it how we go?
You should propose an amendment, you can amend it.
And then move to approve as amended. Read the language.
So move to amend the section, what is it, attachment A, section 11.1. To do the things you've decided to. I don't actually know what the language would be, but
It says effective areas, Article 10, but then in attachment B, but then it says Article 11. No, below. It says Article 10,
No.
Article 11.
So, is there a second to amend? Sorry.
Should we do it, huh?
Oh,
Yes, you do have to vote. The amendment, you have to vote.
okay. So we have to have the exact wording, right?
Yeah, so how do you want to amend this?
Yeah, exactly. We should do that. Should be able to do that. On a, so remove with a hands up vote and put it, like, change the, or so to say, the speaker shall be elected by plurality on a secret ballot or at by a hands up vote at the request of a unanimous vote of senators.
That's probably it. I didn't know.
I would say, I would have vote, and I would say on a secret ballot or by hands up vote in like if, so like in the, you know what I mean, like have it conditional before instead of after. Like that, I don't know if that was.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't know what that means. Yeah. I understand what you're saying logically, I just don't know what that means.
I was like,
You could say with the unanimous consent of the Senate.
the sense like I don't know how to word it well.
Of the Senate instead of having the rest of the senators.
All right. So currently it reads, the speaker and assistant speaker shall be elected by plurality on a secret ballot or by hands up vote with unanimous consent of the Senate.
But that sounds like you have to unanimously elect the speaker if it's a hands up vote. Not what we want. So how do we change that?
Also, this is the end of our time, so.
So actually, is it another 5 minutes to finish writing this?
All right, motion to continue for additional 5 minutes.
I would, okay. So maybe put a period at the end of hands up vote. And then you can say a hands up vote will only take place with unanimous consent of the Senate. Or a hands up vote for the speaker and assistant speaker.
Just have to be it, not a proposed.
Hands up vote for assistant.
Oh,
Speaker or assistant speaker.
No, it's a vote, but do not consent. With the other speaker consent. This is a like it's like a circular. And one vote. The second hands up. Colin's editing.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
All right.
Are people with the end of discussion? Move to approve SL 45 as amended.
Oh, wait, no.
Oh wait, I did not
wait.
just second that. That was
Just kidding.
that was April
I didn't
Fool's.
motion that
Because
either.
we didn't
Wow.
amend attachment B.
We were on it.
Yeah, you didn't amend it.
You have amended attachment B. Well, one, you didn't vote on this amendment. Are you voting on the amendment?
Good for us.
Yeah.
That's what you need to vote on. And then you need to talk about attachment B if you're gonna change that one. And then vote on that amendment, and then you need to, vote on if you are going to SL. Right, Jerry? That's what we're doing.
SL.
He's probably watching.
Yep. All right.
Move to amend attachment B, Article 11.1. Oh, you did
Attachment
move
A.
it?
And you,
Attachment A.
staff team seconded it, so that's the vote on it.
What's attachment A? It's not attachment B.
Attachment A, section, attachment A, section 11-4.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Great. All right. All in favor? Raise your hands. All right. All opposed?
Yes.
All right.
Thank
No.
you.
All right. Passes.
Great.
I said hi.
Okay. Would anybody like to propose an amendment to attachment B?
Colin, get.
He's still watching. No.
I don't think it's writing anything.
Tell them to live stream and I'll talk to
So we have a confirmation at 6:30.
That's not a group that is in high company.
All right, no one wants to propose an Patrick fee. Is there anybody who would like to move, or is there a motion for the?
We have to vote on the amendment, right? Or we already did that?
We already did that.
Okay.
Move to approve SL.
No,
Just kidding.
We have to move for the.
you have, so this is all, you have not amended the tax fee.
Right, we did not.
You have, it's all in the same bill, or piece of legislation, they all have to be amended before you vote.
Change from the letters.
Yeah, it says the Senate will move into secret ballot at the request of any senator.
Right, we're approving that.
That's not what
But you
you,
set
that
your
clock
default to
should-
secret ballot, so now it's different.
that's not what it says up at the top.
But
No, but like, for instance,
wait, they're not in
That's for
conflict.
speaker.
if we were to do like in any vote, we could request movers to
Right.
ballot.
Regardless of whether or not it's default, we can
Right.
move into
Yeah,
it.
that's speaker.
So it's not, they're not in conflict, they're just contradictory, it's just redundant.
Yeah, they're just,
Is that what
they're
you
not a
want?
conflict.
Yes, yes, they are, because this, oh, no, wait, hold on. No, they are in conflict because your default is secret ballot. This is saying you move into a secret ballot at the request of any senator.
But it doesn't
Senators
mean
don't
you
have
won't.
to request secret ballot, it is secret ballot. They have to vote against, but they have to all vote for hands up, hands down.
But this,
I don't-
doesn't this include confirmations and inclusion hearings?
Right, because it's not saying it will only move, it just says it will move.
Like, I think this broadens the scope of using secret ballots.
But,
They
so
set a
it
default
says
to
in
use
this
this.
first sentence, secret ballot voting is not permitted, except for the election. So you're saying,
Right, so
we're
permitted
going
for-
to
It's
use
the end of our
secret
next
ballot.
5 minutes.
So then why would you
So-
say we're going to do secret ballot?
You better get us into it.
We knew, if I know that already.
All right,
Yeah, it would-
is there another extension?
Yeah.
That is more than
that's
enough.
Second?
Second.
All right.
Yes.
I don't think they're in conflict.
Do you have, like, don't we have to be redundant because it's two different sections?
Right, and
It's
it's
the only thing that Amendment B
So then you
changes
have to-
is that motions for secret ballot pass by a single senator instead of by majority vote.
But doesn't, like, that is not the same as this. This
Right.
is just general elections for these things. This is specifically for speaker and assistant speaker, right? Like, am I?
Well, so I think it would need to, would need to say if the Senate, because it's, senators are not requesting secret ballot, it is secret ballot, but they would be, what they would be requesting is hands up, hands down, right? That's what you wrote in this other one. It's secret ballot unless everybody says hands up, hands down,
Right.
right? So,
Just the speaker and assistant speaker elections, which are listed in the secret ballot specifically as times where secret ballot
Right.
voting is permitted.
Right, section B says that Senate ballot is permitted, not that it has to be or it doesn't have to be, it's just permitted. It's a thing that's okay to do. And then it says the Senate will move into it at the request, so it's like.
so, but it's not a request. A senator isn't requesting. They don't say, I want, you're actually voting. That's how you move into, like, so this has an election of speaker and assistant speaker. You don't, from the amendment above, you're not requesting to move into secret ballot.
But attachment B doesn't say that you need to request it either.
Like for that one, it's just default. For everything else,
Well.
That could be, the way it's worded is just problematic because with this wording, any senator on any regular legislation is like, I'm gonna vote by secret ballot.
Not by the
That would
first
be
sentence.
possible.
No, not by the
The
first,
first-
but I think it's problematic with speaker and assistant speaker.
and we're at the end of our next 2 minutes.
So,
I just want to delete and the
Oh,
election of
yeah.
the speaker and assistant speaker then.
well, I mean, but also, so people can move into secret ballot for confirmation by
Yes.
just saying, I want a secret ballot.
I think you should say in these exceptions.
I'm just saying, that's what this says, but they can't do that for speaker and assistant speaker.
Well, it's defaulted to
Right, so you can't
Okay,
negotiate something that you're already in.
yeah. So, yeah, I think that I think you take out, then, because this is different. They're different. Right, that's what it is now. Well,
I understand what they're saying though. They're saying that you're enabling something that's already addressed in another section that is not addressed.
It's just redundant.
But it's redundant in the sense of request versus vote. Like, you're being more specific in this one than you are in the other one, in a sense.
No one's voting for a secret ballot though.
Right, if you're already in a secret ballot, why would you have to request to go into a secret ballot?
Right, and this is saying the same thing, but the opposite of the unanimous consent.
but it is saying that you have to request speaker and assistant speaker.
You don't have to though.
But that's what that
So
says.
should
It
we
says
say,
it will move if, not that you have to be in a secret ballot with the vote.
So it's only addressed in a certain situation.
alright, so should we just add like,
I didn't care. Here's the problem, like, I'm trying to think of like how people are gonna read this in 3 years, right?
10 years.
So like, the secret ballot voting is not permitted except for confirmation of impeachment proceedings and the election of a speaker and assistant speaker. The Senate will move into a secret ballot at the request of any senator. So, which is different than what's up there, because
But what's up there is specific to a single election.
no, it's just our next
okay.
two.
7 minutes.
I will be able to. I didn't.
Alright, is there a
Not
motion?
mine anyway,
The
or
Senate
whatever.
will, and this is the Senate can.
No, it's not a
Alright, is there a motion to amend or to approve?
Can you say the Senate can instead of will?
Well, what?
Is that a motion?
No, well, because if you say can, that leaves them open to not.
Oh. Because they are for the attachment B, right?
No,
If
because
that says if one person asks for this confirmation to be secret ballot, it's secret ballot, because it says will. If you put can, it leaves it open, the door open to say, no, we don't have to. We
Right.
can, we don't have to. So,
alright, is there a motion? To amend or to approve?
Do we need
Or to
something?
table?
Move to approve SL 45-1819 as amended.
Alright, great. Alright. Number of senators for. I'll get your question.
yeah.
Okay, so it's. What, 7 or? I can't count. Raise your hands again, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, good. And number of senators opposed?
For first one.
One.
So that's actually, I love that.
0 abstaining. And with that, the motion passes.
Wait, what about that?
One abstain, yeah.
We're not right.
All right, great.
Okay, you just have a question about those
All right. All right, now we have the confirmation of Pat Michael as the Associate Director for the Department of Communications. All right, cool. So we're going to do your confirmation. So the way it works is we're going to do introductions first, and then we're going to ask that you open us up with a little introduction about who you are and why you want the position. And then after that, we're going to move into a questioning process where each senator will be able to ask you a question. And then after the questioning process, we're going to go into a discussion with just senators, where you won't be able to speak, and then we're going to vote, and you need a majority vote to be confirmed. Sound good? All right, great. So my name's Jared. I'm the senator. I serve as the speaker. So, Robbie, you want to?
I'm Robbie, the secretary from She Her.
I was thinking,
Senator. Yeah.
I'm Deshauna, I'm a senator.
I'm Senator.
I'm Brandon, the assistant speaker.
I'm Miles, the student.
I'm Pat, just UABC student. And
I'm Sean, and I'm FYA, and then you see him right
I'm Francis, I'm a senator, and she represents.
I'm a boy, I'm a FYA.
Hi, my name is Osura, and you see it is Rana, and I'm a sorcerer.
Video. Hi, my name is Patrick, I'm a senator. You see him, please.
I'm Candace Martinez, I'm the Assistant Director for Leadership and Governance, and I also serve as the SGA Advisor, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Brenda, I'm the Executive Vice President, they, she, her. I'm Sol, I'm a senator, she, his.
All right, great. So, thank you for that. Would you mind opening us up with a little introduction about yourself?
Yeah. First, I want to say, like, after what just happened, like, I miss this. This was great. I used to be a senator, so yeah, that was cool. Okay, so I'm Pat. I'm a junior at UMBC, second semester junior, so kind of late in my UMBC career. I'm currently an RA in Potomac Hall, and I work at the Study Abroad office. Yeah, so if you ever want to study abroad, come talk to me, because I can get you connected to wherever you want to go. But don't go to like a country that's like has a travel warning of level 3 or 4, because we can't make that happen. Anything else, we got you. Okay, cool. So a little about why I want to take the position. So I was just having dinner with Tess one day, and Tess is the current director of communications, and we were talking about some of the things that she's working on with the communications department, and she's been there, so she knows like how it runs, all the kind of inner workings of it. And I was thinking like I can bring some vision to this department, right? I can bring like kind of a mission and a shared purpose to this department, and like some things that we can do to basically ensure that everyone in the department does actions according to that vision or mission. So that's kind of what I foresee my role is as associate director. Some of the things I'm interested in is, so you think about like communications, right? I'm thinking about like, what does that mean? So from my perspective, communication means how do we communicate with kind of like the SGA and the student body, both ways. So from the student body's perspective to the SGA, like how do we figure out the needs and wants of the student body? But then also from the SGA to the student body. So how can we communicate the work that the SGA is doing in a positive light to the student body? So like some things I'm thinking of are like, how do we connect with UMBC, right? How do we connect with this place? How do we connect with those buildings? How do we connect with this field? How do we connect with like our surrounding community? How do we connect with the sky? David Hoffman, if any of you know David Hoffman, he is like the UMBC sky guy. He talks to the sky. He communicates with the sky. How do we talk to the UMBC cats? The UMBC cats are a population that not a lot of people know about. But I think we need to learn how to communicate with them, because that will better impact the SGA and the student population. Edibles. So, all joking aside, I really am working on like the connection between the SGA and the student population and bringing vision to the department, but maybe not with the kids.
Thanks, Pat. All right, so would anybody like to open this up in questions? Wait, Candace, is he eligible for the position?
Candace.
We're fools, right?
No, I don't know. I got these on the weekend.
Okay.
I have not checked.
So what does that mean?
You need to table it.
Really?
Yeah.
Follow that up. Can we approve under the contention that he's eligible? Or
You can amend the legislation.
You can amend the legislation to do that, yeah. But I was not working this weekend. Not working this weekend.
I think they just like cats.
No, so.
Mommy cats? They like those.
Move to amend that we stipulate that the candidate is eligible for we approve. If we
Or I got
be let it be resolved.
Let it be resolved. Candidates.
That's fine. I think that's great.
Pretty well. Oh, yeah.
What is that?
But I knew how I had to do that. I figured out how to do it.
All right, so Patrick, would you like your motion to amend? That?
Yeah, motion to amend that. Move to amend that under the condition that the candidates are open position.
All right, member Senator Sport? All right, opposed? All right, passes.
Move to approve SL.
All right, great. Now we're gonna go through the question process. Okay, so would anybody like to open this up with questions?
So,
Yeah.
we were talking about your goal is to basically have SGA communicate with students and students communicate with SGA. So what sort of ideas do you have to have that communication?
So I've been thinking about this, and I think in terms of outreach, we're gonna, something I've been trying to work with Tess for next meetings to figure out like what kind of outreach strategies we currently have, and then outreach strategies that we can implement. So I know one thing that we implemented in last year's SGA was the street team. But we talked a little bit with Brenda about maybe how that's not as viable, since like, how are we gonna get the things that come out of street team? Oh, by the way, street team is basically an initiative where like, we would go in the breezeway at free hour and basically talk to students, asking them questions, getting the student needs. So I think that was a really great way to get the student needs, but how can we get them effectively to the people that make the change, aka the Senate, the Executive Council, that kind of thing. So I think it'll take some creative brainstorming, but I think we can bring that back, possibly. And then just also like, how do we effectively have conversations with residents I'm an RA, sorry. With UMBC students that will kind of invoke some of those things. Right, that's the one way of communication, right? Of getting the needs of the students. Of actually getting the UMBC's message across to the student population, I want to strengthen our relationship with the retriever, and also see what we're doing with our social media and videography and photography platforms.
Do you have any experience doing communications?
No.
No. Thank you.
Between your other positions that you hold on campus, how much time do you have to commit to the associate director?
I would say as much time as needed. One reason that I come so late in the semester is that I had ASB, alternative spring break. I was a leader, and that was kind of like a suck for a lot of my time earlier in the semester. So I would say anywhere from like 5 to 10 hours a week is something that I can commit.
Any other questions? All right, move to discussion. So, anybody want to start us off? Sean?
I think he's a perfectly viable candidate. He's been involved in SGA the past year or multiple years. So he knows what SGA's mission statement is and what it's about and what its values are. So I think he would represent the organization well. Even though he doesn't have any specific communications role, or any skills specific to communications, he seems like he's a fast learner. He seems committed and persevering since he's an RA and ASB, etc.
Cool. So anybody who is has any concerns? All right, so everybody.
to approve SL 461811.
Second.
All right. Number of senators for? All right. Is everyone opposed? No. Absent? 1. And with that, the motion passes.
Felicidades. And then we can publicity. I should be in the communications department, so.
All right, we're gonna swear you in, so I gotta grab the. All right. Alright, so raise your right hand. Alright, so I state your name. Do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of Associate Director of the Department of Communications of the UMBC Student Government Association and will to the best of my ability promote and defend the interests and well-being of UMBC's undergraduate students. Thank you. All right, up next. So these are 2 jails from the Finance Board. So this first jail is from the Finance Board. We need to have these jails passed by this week for them to go into effect so that we can update the number of positions available for elections. So, but essentially the Finance Board wants to increase the number of seats from 5 to 7. So it was presented from the, yeah. Brenda.
Yes. So 5 is a tiny number, first of all. Also, 2 of those 5 are leadership positions. So the chair and assistant chair of the Finance Board. So the way the Finance Board reforms are currently set up, there's a really important role for the Finance Board liaison, who is the representative from the Finance Board that reaches out to certain organizations and kind of prepares them to prep their budget. The way the procedural rules are probably going to be set up, the chair and the vice chair will be excluded from being liaisons. Because of the additional work that they have to do receiving the budget packets and kind of the stuff involving that, there's a lot that the chair has to do. So read through the budgetary statutes if you're interested. They'll be excluded from that process. So if there were only 5 people, that would leave 3 Finance Board representatives to be liaisons for 270 organizations. So this expands the membership, makes it a little more representative of organizations that are requesting money. It's work.
Will this be represented in the budget?
It already is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could having more Finance Board representatives make it sound faster?
Also, this would, if passed, and if passed in the general election, it will take effect this upcoming year. That's what's written into that last clause. Yeah.
With the addition of these 2, how many votes are there in the Finance Board?
Is that 9? 9.
not that it is.
Oh, yes.
Are there more, sorry, how many candidates are there?
There are more than 7.
Right, so there, we'll all motion this. Move to approve jail 16-4819.
That's a lot.
Alright, so, move senators for. Alright, number of senators opposed? Now, President Warren. Anyone done, the motion passes? The updates, the wording of the eligibility policy, and this one's straight from the college. So, here's the attachment. So this is from the Constitution, Article 5, officer selection and removal. And it's,
This is changing the wording.
is there any major changes?
So I can like kind of sum it up if that's easy. So this basically says that you have to be a full-time student for the semesters that you're in office, so that's enrolled in at least 12 credits. That the semester GPA requirements, you have to maintain them both semesters. So there's a cumulative requirement for both offices, I guess. But you have to maintain that for fall and for spring. The way that it was set up before, there was kind of a loophole where if you fell under for one semester, you could still maintain office. And so this clarifies that language. And then at the bottom, it just says that if you don't meet any of those requirements, you'll be removed from your position. And you can't hold office the next semester.
I disagree with, I think the GPA is important, but I disagree with the being more than 12 credits, because I know that there are times when it's to the benefit of a student to withdraw from class rather than mess up the GPA. I was in that situation last semester where I felt like 11.5 credits. Because I had to withdraw from a course I was not going to go to pass. And that's my own problem to do it, but I think that I'm very glad I'm here, and I think that should be acknowledged that even if you fall below credits and you're elected by the student body, I feel like you should still get the chance to represent the student body. Unless your GPA, unless you fall under GPA. I think that's a different situation, but I disagree with the full-time student just for that situation. I just want to
I think the intention of this was to say that like someone who's enrolled in like one credit or like taking one class at UABC should not be able to hold office.
I think that like I definitely understand that, but I think that the student body should also be able to like see that they're like that person doesn't actually go through. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that would come out in the campaign in terms of like, oh, like if this person's taking one credit in UBC, then like they will get elected as someone who like actually is taking classes here, and if not, that's fine. Unless include language, it's like okay, like 10 credits to like close part of that loophole, but also like make sure that like your students. Like again, like the situation I was in, like my GPA is pretty good right now, but and I guess the situation I had to make way disruptions. If I like, I said no, like if I had to, that class, my GPA would be trash. I would also be removed from office, but I'd rather be able to have the liberty to make that decision, knowing that like I can still try to serve the student body in the best way possible, rather than be penalized for making a decision that's not benefit me. I think in the long run, you know what I mean? I just like I don't know. Like I feel like we should close the loophole. Like you should go to one with more credit, but like I would want students who are not position as well to make that like decision with those options.
Can you please?
It's true, yeah.
Can we change the wording to be that they start their semester enrolled in at least 12 credits?
Then drop like
Here's my caveat. I think that as your advisor, I think you miss, if you were to put it at 12 credits, I think you miss an opportunity to hear from part-time students in this college. So someone who's taking 7 credits, or someone who's taking 9 credits, who may be a non-traditional learner or student, I'm not 100% sure on how many credits Katrina wants to take. She's full-time. So, but I think that if you put it at 12 credits, that's my personal opinion, you don't have to listen to me, but that you miss an opportunity. I think in addition, you may be in some sticky water situation because all students who take classes on campus pay the student fee. And you are a student position. So you need to be able to call students to participate. You can act in Gpa requirements around if you need to be successfully completing your degree. I worry, I don't know, but I think it just was that set a bad precedent to have a 12 credit. I think you could put something in there about like currently enrolled in class. I think that there's a loophole, yes, around like you could not Brandon, not if your advisor. I just gotta do my job, so I check your grades and I check your credits and whether you're not enrolled. So you have to get a W, right? Yeah, I don't remember, but you're not eligible. So like, doing mid-semester checks is your advisor's job to make sure you're enrolled in your classes and not dropping all your classes halfway through and still sitting on a body. That's my job. So, but I do think that language can be strengthened or clarified about what enrolled means. Right. So.
Can we define the word enrolled in this legislation? Like, say, Peter is enrolled in EC.
Contribution. So he's suggesting you say 3 credits because it's
One credit.
1 credit.
Not 2 credit.
Practice 1 credit.
Oh.
I'm looking for the rules.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 3 credits for taking programs.
So are you,
And you 1 credit each year.
Well, that's optional.
Just to have 1.5.
1.5.
That's what I'm looking
Or you could say credit bearing classes, you're not auditing a class. Right? You have to be able to. Right, so if someone would be like, well, I'm auditing these classes, I have a schedule.
Wait, can I clarify something? So we're talking about legislative officers, right? So are you okay with the 24 total credits for executive officers?
Oh, that's like included.
Yeah, that's different.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. So we're not.
No.
Okay.
I don't know, I think the president for that position should be like, as upper, yeah, like upper class, like some dedication to UBC, not just like that. Because you can take part-time HCC, part-time UBC, but I don't think you should be the president of our student. It's like, that's, I think it's a different type of situation. So.
All right. So we have 1 more minute, or 2 more minutes, I think.
Move to amend Bill 17-1819 to say a student enrolled in at least 3 credits at UBC instead of 12.
All right. Is there anyone opposed? Is there anyone dissent? We have to vote on? Okay. All senators for? Senators opposed?
Can you do hold office? You have us as our speaker and the speaker.
Move to amend JL 17-1819 to say, or hold office of the subsequent following first semester period.
All right, cool. All right, three senators for. All right. Opposed? All right. All right. Are there any other amendments? Are there any other amendments anyone would like to make?
I want to get in there, but I have a grammar note that I was like, oh, please. So you in the first line it says the Board of Appeals to seek or hold an elected or appointed administrative office. And then it says in the next paragraph, in order to be eligible to seek and hold. So those are different. So to be able to seek and hold, or seek, I just think that I don't know if we should do this or not.
I think we should. Trouble senators who want an and. What's the order of your and?
Seek and hold or seek or hold.
Yeah, seek and hold instead of seek or hold.
Every place that says slash. That's should be order.
Yeah.
So, with that, you got, like, so what we're doing is the Senate and everyone wants, instead of doing two orders, to just change this back to the
No, it should be lower, because someone could be holding office, but not seeking it. Right? Like, so, for instance, I use Brandon, so Brandon holding office, but if it's seek and hold, you have to be seeking and holding office to be held to these.
All right. Is there a motion? Is there a motion? So you say move to amend. Move to amend.
No, you have to amend it.
Move to amend JL 1819.
Move to amend JL 18.
Yeah, 17.
17-1819.
To say.
Or instead of
Alright.
Is there a second in the room?
Second.
Number of senators for. Opposed? Alright, passes. Cool. Alright.
Robert.
Alright, so is there any other amendments that you'd like to make to this? That anyone like to make? No? Alright, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve JL 17-1819.
All right, great. All right, number of senators for. All right, number of senators opposed. 0, announce it, and that motion passes. And that's our last thing. So, with that, on your announcements.
We'll take back the NISA thing. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, we're almost done. We're almost done. Oh yeah, so Nate was here. He dropped this petition for SGA that he wants to present to us. Would you like to read it? Sure. I mean, it's not urgent right now, but just for after meeting and whatever, you can just check it out. But yeah, that's the announcement.
Yeah.
You should read it.
Please post it on Slack. Just right.
Okay, here, take a picture of it.
I'd like to point out that as of the beginning of this meeting, the petition had 20 signatures, and so the person should keep it around, but I do not believe that the request is reasonable, given how much time and we spent on last year elections. Our job is to represent the student body, the interests of the students, and I just want to remind everyone that we put in a significant amount of effort into making the elections go very smoothly, and I think it's important we honor that by giving students as good an election as possible. I just want to say that out loud.
Alright, now's not really the time to talk about the issue. We can bring it to the floor, we can. Any other announcements?
Yeah, there's 2 leader shots on Wednesday. One is about how to become a mentor. It's at noon. Pretty stuff. Like, why it's important to be a mentor to other people, and how to do that, and thinking about yourself as a mentor. So that's at noon in Commons 328. And then the other one is at 4:30. It's about empathy and building empathy and how to show empathy. That is also in Commons 328, and that's at 4:30 with 3 pizza on Wednesday. 12 o'clock, 4:30, mentorship at 12, empathy at 4:30, pizza echoes, if you long meal swipes for money. Sign up. Go ahead.
Alright, that's no. Alright. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 7:35. Alright, you talking to the line, you know how to do it.
You got it.
Who would like to start off?